in Chinese, and there was a lot of friction. How do you say? There was a lot of everybody was very uncomfortable, and a lot of arguing, and even people were there was obviously violence as well. And it's really sad to see this happen because of the misunderstanding. And when you have a crowd of 10 to 15,000 people, it's extremely difficult. And so, you know, to try to control that many people on one side and the other side it didn't send a right message to the world, you know, about what we stood for and what obviously China stood for. And in that sense, I was really sad that, you know, I couldn't resolve anything. But during that time period, there were 7 bike riders, and I was one of them. We rode our bikes from San Francisco all the way down to Los Angeles. And some of the protesters actually followed us from mainland China. And they followed us to the colleges that we spoke. And every time we would be coming there to speak, they'd all be there ready to challenge us, just like it happened in San Francisco. And so there was a lot of argument, a lot of debate, and but at the end of each talk, there was some type of reconciliation. We walked away with some type of not satisfaction, but some type of, like, you know, here we are, we can at least try to work with each other. You know, we're here in a democratic country, and please, you know, try to at least research some of the information that you have maybe been misled. And so as I went down further on my bike ride, I had some of the Chinese protesters, they had actually emailed me later. And they were being email friends, and they actually met me in Los Angeles, and they did more research on our situation. So even though it was this one individual, I really felt like among 10-15,000 people, you know, this one individual at least took the time and interest in researching more and had a bit better understanding of the situation with the true history about our country, Tibet. And I was so happy this happened. So I would say that that was a very big obstacle. That was the biggest challenge that I had. But at the same time, the end result it was a real positive result. I was really happy that I was able to make friends with one person. You could say that was on the other side, but now he's on the side for human rights now, and he actually has joined me on one walk in Boston, and I was really happy he joined me, and now he's telling his friends too to join us. So things can happen, but it does take some time.
其实这个问题呢，其实在我记忆中呢，应该是只有一次。然后呢，那个时候呢，就是08年的时候，在那个旧金山的那个圣火游行，就是奥林匹克圣火游行的时候。那时候呢，我们特别去那个旧金山做了一个非常大规模的抗议，因为我们认为我们不支持这样的一个中国有资格来举行如此和平的奥林匹克运动会。然后呢，那一次大概是两边大概有1万到15000人左右的人在那里做示威抗议。那其实那整个感觉整个状况是非常让人家不舒服的。然后因为有非常多的叫嚣，非常多的争论，然后呢，其实整个场面非常火爆，然后激烈，就是双方冲突几乎是一触即发。然后其实我非常非常的难过，而且是1万到15000人，你很难控制你这边的人。就是虽然就是警察是有想办法隔开两边，但是让你很难控制你这边的人。然后双方的冲突似乎又非常的激烈火爆，几乎要到了就是要爆发的临界点。那我其实非常非常的难过，因为它其实造成的是误解，造成的是对方大家对于吐蕃人不正确的理解。然后呢，我们 我们这样子其实是没有把正确的讯息传递给全世界的，因为图博是一个爱好和平的民族，但是在那样子一个状况之下，很容易被人家贴标签，很容易被人家污名化。那虽然我很努力的想要控制那个场面，可是如同大家知道，这么多人的状况之下是很难控制的。然后我在那个时间点上面，我几乎也没有办法就是解决那样子的一个情状。那所以后来呢，我们就是大概有7位，那就骑着脚踏车，就决定要释放一个和平的讯息给世界知道。所以我们一路就要骑到那个洛杉矶去。然后呢，就有那个中国派出来的一些学生呢，或者说职业抗议者，我们不太清楚，反正他们呢就跟着他沿路呢，我们骑到哪里，他就跟到哪里。那我们在校园里面演讲，他就一定要出来抗议。然后呢，他又会开始努力的，就是去挑战他们说的每一句话、每一件事情，然后希望把这整个场面弄得很糟糕难看。但是事实上呢，后来我很努力的，就是跟他们就试图做一个沟通跟和解，然后呢，告诉他们就是我们去做一个沟通，就如同达赖喇嘛刚刚所说的一样，我们坐下来听听对方的想法跟声音，然后我们互相来寻求一个解决的方式，然后我们就告诉他们，就说，毕竟就是美国是一个自由民主的国家，每个人都有言论自由，我尊重你们发言的权利，那也请你们尊重我们发言的权利。那不知如何的，似乎就是有达到一个基本的理解。所以最奇妙的就是说，我们也请他们就说，或许你们是被误解了，就是被你们的中国领导政府呢误解了这样子图博的事实。那请你们回去做一些研究。那你在美国这样一个自由的国家，你有很多的资料，你可以得到一些正确的讯息。然后。其实这些中国的那个抗议者呢，很有意思的是，其中有一个人呢，他成为了我的朋友，他写信给我，我们成为所谓的笔友，然后我们甚至在就是那个洛杉矶见面。那他事实上就是说我很高兴作为。这件事情我很高兴，就是说这件事情发生了，虽然是花了一些时间，花了沟通的时间，花了互相理解的时间，但它发生了。然后虽然它有冲突在前面，有那个阻碍在前面，但是我们呢能够解决它，我们能够就是超越它。那我非常的高兴，说这件事情有一个积极、乐观、正面的一个 ending， 一个结束。那事实上，这位朋友也非常的有意思，他对我来讲最大的意义是说，他从一个跟我们敌对下的阵营，他呢能够理解我们，然后呢真的能够认同我们是一个世界和平，而且是一个为了人权而努力的一个我们是这样的一群人。那这个朋友更有意思的是，他最后呢还加入我们为自由图博而走的活动。那这个活动是他就跟我一路就走到了波士顿去了，然后他还告诉他很多的朋友。就是有这样一个活动，欢迎大家来参加。换言之，热情是可以传染的。我们这些我们只要说影响一个人，然后呢就可以影响更多的人。虽然说它需要一点时间，但它终将会发生。
Okay, the third question. 第三個問題就是in 1980s, when Chinese government invite you and your father back to Tibet, what did you see back then? And since you have left Tibet for many decades.
Actually, I was born in New York, and I was really fortunate that I went along with my father on a trip to Tibet by the invitation of the Chinese government in 1980. So that time we're probably the first, you could say, unofficial representatives for the Tibetan people on my father's side that came to Tibet. And what I remember seeing is everybody wore green hats and green pants and shirts and big red star, and then obviously gray shirts. I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of soldiers everywhere, a lot of military soldiers everywhere. I saw with our own people a lot of poverty, and I saw people during the daytime that was shown to us that were very happy or that were dressed really nicely, but obviously it was just a show to tell us that under the Chinese rule that the Tibetan people are very happy now, and that's untrue. That was very untrue. And so I was able to travel all over Tibet, and the Tibetan people's civilization, obviously, you could see, if I remember when I was that young, that there was a lot of military control, and that showed obviously now that China uses that as a military force to everyone, and especially a country like Tibet, ours, that is a peaceful country, and they can use this type of force, which is a sad situation. Now, I see pictures and I see films about Tibet, and unlike when I remember when I was there, I didn't see this type of not positive modernization. And what I mean by that is you would see a lot of bars, nightclubs, and this is not Tibet. Tibet is not made of bars and nightclubs. And there's these 5-star hotels everywhere now, I hear. So Tibet is a really sad situation. Is being used for a tourist ticket, for mainland China, and for economic value, and also to show they leave a certain monasteries intact, or the ones that were destroyed by the Chinese and rebuilt by the Tibetan people. They're used as not only museums, but they're used to show that Tibetan culture and religion is being preserved, which is untrue. These monasteries used to hold 25 to 30,000 monks and nuns, but when you go to these monasteries right now, there's only 1 to 2 monks that actually care for the whole monastery. And it's a really sad situation. I hear, I see. So Tibet you see today as you go is not really the true Tibet. And our situation, I always compare it to the Native American Indian situation, which happened when the white people had came in and took over the Native American land and actually corrupted that land with alcoholism and drugs and all the negative things in life, which made and killed their society slowly. And this is what they're doing. They're doing in Tibet today. They're doing population transfers. They've got a railroad way, which actually they're saying it's for tourism, but actually it's used for tearing down our great timber, our resources, to move out more of the resources out of our great land. And when they do have the tourism and the trains set up for tourists, it's an outrageous amount of money that they make money off of tourists, which none of the money goes to the Tibetan people. So everything is all a show, and Tibetan people, they themselves don't have the good jobs. All the great jobs are given to the Chinese people, and there are incentives in the Chinese government to send Chinese families to Tibet, and the pay incentives, which they give big bonuses, because Tibet is the highest peak in the world, highest altitude, and it's very difficult to live up there if you're not from that region. So the Chinese people from China are not used to this, so they can't live in that kind of situation. It's very difficult. So that's why the government gives them these bonuses, this extra money, high pays, to move there, eventually to assimilate, to be part, and to swallow up our culture, and also to control our culture as well. So it's a very sad situation, and And if obviously if the Tibetan people were not